Have you ever struggled with feeling such intense emotions and regretting maybe certain decisions that you've made because of it, maybe avoiding things or snapping and yelling at somebody and then regretting that? If so, you have probably struggled with something called emotional dysregulation. And if that's the case, I am going to give you the number one tip that mental health professionals like myself teach clients in order to help with emotional dysregulation. But first, for those of you that don't know me, my name is Dr. Vanessa Milagros, and I'm a licensed mental health professional. On this channel, I make videos all the time about different mental health topics. So if you're interested in that, make sure to subscribe, like, and stick around. Let's get started. So let's start with what emotional dysregulation is. And this is the inability for people to manage strong emotions that come up for them in healthy ways. So the situation does not warrant the behavior based on the strong emotions that come up for you. So if you struggle with that, then emotional dysregulation is something that you are currently experiencing. Some of the signs of emotional dysregulation can include mood swings, overreactions to small stressors, difficulty calming down after becoming upset, feeling emotionally drained and overwhelmed by situations on a daily basis, engaging in impulsive behaviors such as yelling, shutting down, self-sabotage, emotional eating, or even self-harm. What are some of the causes of emotional dysregulation? So how do we develop this? Where does it come from? Here are some of the ways. The first one is childhood trauma and attachment wounds. I actually have a full video on emotional attachment in childhood and how that impacts us in adulthood. So if you're interested in that, take a look at this video up here. But this can include things such as early emotional neglect from your caregivers or inconsistent parenting. Next is chronic stress and burnout. So chronic means high intensity levels and consistently over time. When our nervous systems are overloaded consistently and continuously, this makes it harder or more difficult to manage emotions. Next, and this is very important, are mental health diagnoses. So ADHD, anxiety, depression, PTSD, borderline personality disorder. These are commonly linked to emotional dysregulation. Now, it doesn't mean if you experience moments of emotional dysregulation that you have these diagnoses. So always make sure to get a diagnosis from a mental health professional. And lastly, but definitely not least, are learned behaviors. So when things are modeled for you, you learn through that. That is one of the ways that we learn how to deal with things. And so if emotions ran high and from that, the behaviors that came after was yelling, kicking, screaming, that's how you learn that when you're angry, you yell, you kick, and you scream. And so for you, that may be normal, but it doesn't mean that it's healthy. Also, we start to recognize that certain patterns that we develop within childhood and adolescence are unhealthy, are when we step outside of our homes, when you go to college for the first time, or maybe when you hang around individuals who grew up in healthier family dynamics, when you are in situations where people kind of give you the side eye and they're like, wait, what? Why are you having such a strong reaction right now? We're only doing this, or this is the given situation. This is not matching. Now, why is this important? Why is this even a topic? Why can't I just go on being emotionally dysregulated and doing things how I want to do it? Well, you can. You can continue to do all of that. But if you're finding that it's impacting your work, your relationships, your friendships, your family relationships, then it's a good idea to look more into this and see what you can actually do to help. So let's get into the number one skill that therapists use to help clients who struggle with emotional dysregulation. And that is called distress tolerance. And this is the ability to experience strong, intense emotions and not react with your behaviors in negative ways. So you can feel angry, you can feel sadness, but your reaction, your behaviors after that are not abusive or unhealthy or unrelated to the situation at hand. So for instance, if there is a situation where there's about to be a fatal accident and your reaction is to yell, yes, that would make sense. That is not emotional dysregulation. That is, I am seeing an accident about to happen and my normal reaction would be to yell or to call for help or to just dive right in, right? However, if you're in a situation where somebody maybe makes you upset or is telling you something that you may not want to hear and it's a conversation that you're having and you sit there and yell in the same manner as you would before seeing an accident, that's not really leveling up, right? That's not adding up. So you have to take a look at the situation and what your behavior and your reaction is to it. And usually the pattern that you'll start to see is that your reactions actually tend to make the situations worse. If that is the pattern that you are seeing, this is one clear sign that you struggle with emotional dysregulation. So where distress tolerance comes in is that you learn how to have those strong emotions that we all experience from time to time. You allow those emotions to rise up and you feel them, they're there, but your behaviors or reactions to that are not impulsive, and you're able to learn how to tolerate them until they pass. See, the thing about emotions is that they can become heightened, but they don't stay at the pinnacle of heightened. They come down eventually with time. However, we don't want to wait for that a lot of times. We want to just get rid of that emotion. And so that's where emotional dysregulation can come in, or avoidance can come in a lot of times. See, I'm feeling too many things. I'm out. I'm done. Another reason why this skill is so powerful and so helpful is not only because we as humans all feel emotions from time to time. That's normal. That's natural. However, how we respond to situations, when we learn how to actually regulate our emotions, we see the change within our behavior. So you're not yelling at your boss when you shouldn't be doing so. You're not screaming and yelling at your spouse or your kids unnecessarily when it could be a conversation. Healthy communication skills. You're not flying off the handle, so to speak, whenever something does not go your way. And when you don't do those things, when you don't react in those unhealthy ways, you notice that more people may come around. People may feel safer around you. They don't feel as though you're going to snap at any given moment and react out of proportion to what the situation calls for. And let me fill you in on a little secret. A lot of us feel as though our emotions, when they're so strong, it is important for us to do something about it. We can't just leave it there. That doesn't make any sense. This is too intense. This is too strong. But when you recognize that there is a place where your emotions go from high to low and they decrease, you have more power because you recognize that these emotions that I'm experiencing right now are not going to last forever, but my behaviors may impact me for much longer. And you find the power and strength to recognize I don't have to allow this intense feeling, emotion to control me. I can sit with this. And sometimes when I say that, it's like, oh, I don't want to sit with this. It doesn't feel good. I want to just figure something out so I don't have to feel this. That's where we have addictions, and that's where we have unhealthy patterns that develop. But when you learn how to be able to recognize I can have a strong emotion and not let it affect my behavior, and I know that it is going to decrease over time, you get your power back. You're able to say, I've got this. You're able to get your own power back in that sense and know that this will not last forever. So by now you're probably wondering, sounds great, you got me. How do I actually put this into practice? What do I do now that I know what distress tolerance is? Well, I'm going to leave you with 4 tips to help you start to practice distress tolerance skills right now. Tip number 1 is called the stop skill. And this is based from DBT. It's just a type of therapeutic approach. And essentially, when you start to feel your emotions overwhelming, you stop, as in the name. But this encourages you to pause before reacting. So it could be a mental note that you make, recognizing, oh, I am starting to get angry right now. I need to pause before I react because my initial reaction is you fill in the blank. Next, take a deep breath. Slow breathing and controlled breathing allows the parasympathetic nervous system to actually activate and help you in those moments because it actually helps you reduce the emotional intensity that you're feeling. It doesn't make the emotion go away. It helps reduce the intensity of it. Observe. Figure out what is going on for you. So I want you to think about it as if you're assessing yourself. You're taking your own self-inventory. What's happening? Are my palms sweating? Am I feeling as though my shoulders are getting tensed up? What is actually going on for me? What are my thoughts, right? What am I thinking about? You have to learn how to acknowledge where you're at and what is coming up for you because that will help you understand what your patterns are. If a situation is triggering you, then it's important to understand how am I feeling? I need to acknowledge that. What is coming up for me? What am I thinking? But also, when I do that, I can actually pause, stop, and not just react. Next, I want you to proceed mindfully. So I want you to think about how you want to respond to this situation. You have more power when you can do that. So what do I mean by that? When somebody else's actions can control your behaviors, that's a problem. But when you are able to take back that control and proceed mindfully and say, how do I want to react to this? How much power do I want to give this situation? And how much power do I want to keep? Now, I'm Separating this from situations where there's been years of gaslighting and manipulating and control, I'm talking about situations maybe at work. I'm talking about situations maybe in your relationships that don't have a history of manipulation, right? However, it's a situation where if you respond in an unhealthy way, it's not going to have good consequences for you. And you know that you're actively working on this because you tend to overreact in these situations. Then this is where I'm talking about. Then you're my audience. So proceed mindfully about how you want to respond and behave or not respond. Number two, radical acceptance. And this is facing reality and the situation for what it is, not for what you wish or you would want it to be. So trying to resist those emotions usually tends to make things worse. So when you react to situations in an unwarranted way, your behavior is not warranted given the situation that's right in front of you, your reaction isn't going to change the situation at hand. So instead, look at it more realistically. What is happening right now? How is it making me feel? I need to acknowledge that frustrated, sad, whatever the case is, you fill in the blank. But also, what can I actually change about it at this moment? What can I control? What are my controllables? And everything else, it is out of my control. My behavior, if it's unwarranted, it's not going to help. And this takes time and it takes practice. And there are times where you're going to get it right and you're going to feel like, wow, I'm great at this. And then the next day you're going to be like, what just happened? I just felt like I reverted back 30 steps. No, you didn't. You can always go back and practice these skills. Now, number three, the TIPP method. And now this is for more intense emotions. Have you ever seen those videos on social media that has been going around where people are dunking their heads into ice cold water and then coming back up? It helps to be able to have a temperature change. And that's where the ice water comes in. And a lot of people have found it helpful because it helps to regulate the emotions that you're experiencing through the intense change in temperature for your body. If you're like, I'm not doing no ice water, I'm not doing that, that's fine. Exercise. Do 30 jumping jacks in order to get your frustration out if you feel like you have to do something. If you're like, I can't go to a boxing class right now, that's unrealistic for me. Do some punches right where you're at if you can. Go to a separate room and do it. Get the anger, get the frustration out in a physical format through exercise. If that's not the way that you let off steam and reduce emotional intensity, then sit where you are and practice your breathing skills. Remember how we were talking earlier about our nervous systems and how slow breathing actually helps reduce intense emotions? This is how you can do it. Work on your breathing skills right where you are. Next, progressive muscle relaxation is another great one. So this is where you take inventory of where you are and you're able to tense and then relax certain parts of your body. So you start usually from low to high. So with your toes, you tense and then release. And then with your calves, your calf muscles, you tense, squeeze, and then release. Then you go up higher and higher and higher in your body until you actually are able to feel the distress physically leaving your body. And for this one's one of my favorites, but using your senses to help you emotionally regulate. So we're going to be using our 5 senses here. The first is sight. So look at something that's calming or that helps you or that distracts you for a moment to reduce your intense emotions. Listening to something that's going to help you in this area as well. Touch. Having a warm beverage or a cold one. Having your favorite animal and just petting your animal if you can. Having a weighted blanket, if that is helpful for you. A lot of individuals find weighted blankets really helpful in reducing specifically anxiety, but use your sense of touch to help with this as well. Taste. Like I said earlier, you can drink your favorite beverage and that'll help you to not say some things that you probably shouldn't say. Smell something relaxing. Essential oils are helpful. Lavender has been known to help reduce heightened emotions. When you smell it, that's really helpful. You can always roll it on your wrist, or you can just have a perfume that you love and just spray that perfume or spray that cologne, anything to help activate your sense of smell. Okay, so how do you feel now after watching this video? Do you feel as though you can start to use 1 or 2 or a few more of these skills to help you? Are you feeling confident that over time you can actually develop the skill of regulating your emotions? Are you excited about being able to have your relationships improve because of this change that you're willing to make in your life? If so, leave me a comment down below and let me know what other ideas you have for me that you want me to talk about. Thank you so much for being here again. I will catch you in the next video. Take care.